The State Actors, where we discuss developing stories, social-cultural issues, business, politics, and more. State Actors, a program for critical issues of the moment at Sanders Radio and Television. This is State Actors. My name is Christian Nwokocha. In the studio with me are Barrister Kenneth Onyekachi Madokaji Ogulimba. Barrister Madokaji, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much. Special greetings, my colleagues. Greetings to you, our anchor, and greetings to Nigerians.
Oh, thank you very much. That's a good way to start. Also, I have in the studio with me here the managing editor, News Echo Newspapers, Bright Okereke. Bright Okereke, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, my anchorman, my colleagues, and we thank you.
All right.
And my listeners out there, we give you glory there.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Also, I have here with me Dr. Kelly here too. Dr. Kelly here too. Yeah, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, together we are going to look at May 29th inauguration. We're going to look at the protests and the controversies around it. Maybe for the very first time in this country, that inauguration of an elected president as announced by INEC has gotten to this level of controversy. So, well, let me start with you, Okereke.
All right.
I'm sure you are very familiar with this situation, the controversy, the protests. How has this protests against the inauguration May 29 been resonating with you?
On a very serious note, it has been an unpleasant one anywhere. And then we must tell ourselves the truth at this point. This is the first time in Nigeria it is happening this way. And a lot of things must be instrumental to this. Now, let's take it very statistically anyway. Number one, it has happened not the usual way for the first time. The INEC gave us rules of engagement and just at the middle of the game, very suddenly changed the game pattern. And we all became confused. The electorate became confused. The candidates themselves equally got confused. So it was a confused atmosphere. But we believed that, look, it was a very momentary situation that definitely will be transformed into the very proper one and what it should be. And the thing gradually ran into days. The elections were held, results given by very early in the morning before the cocks crow. When men were asleep, the result was announced. A winner emerged. Before we knew who was the winner, he has already got his certificate of return. I became surprised to the whole nation. However, I don't blame people who agitated that emergence. The INEC was a part of the crisis. The candidates were part of the crisis, especially all the allegations that were on the candidate who emerged meant that he couldn't defend any of them to the conviction of the ordinary people. And then that has left the Nigerians in still confusion that the agitation for May 29th not being realistic came up. Otherwise, the law of the nation has made it that there shouldn't have been any lacuna, there should be no space, there should be a smooth ride. Once the incumbent is leaving, another is taking over. But a lot of things surrounded this election, the 2023 presidential election, and virtually all the other downline elections. And that Nigerians are now saying, what kind of May 29th transition are we expecting to have? That we have lost legitimacy in the conduct of the elections, and the outcome definitely must be illegitimate. Or otherwise we have doubt in the outcome, because a process, an ill-effected process cannot produce a good result. So because that is that, and that is why you're seeing the atmosphere so tense, that by virtue of the announced takeover and the constant announcements from here and there, including the military, that it is sacrosanct, that the date is sacrosanct. People are suggesting transition government, even though I may not be buying into that meanwhile, but what we are saying is that from what we have, it is proper that the justice of the election results be determined before the president-elect is
all right.
Barrister
Monica, that will come to you later, but let me take on Dr. Kelly. Dr. Kelly, I don't know how have you been, what's your thought about all this? Because for the very first time, like I said earlier, Nigeria is going this way. It has become a subject of controversy, the inauguration on May 29th. And looking at what the federal government is already doing, they are determined to go ahead with that inauguration. What's your take in this direction?
Thank you. For me, it's an interesting time because we are in an unusual time. Before the election, there was a great renaissance. There was a great reawakening. People were not interested. People are out of tune with what is happening because there was a paradigm shift from normalcy to anomaly. People started celebrating vices as virtue. People started celebrating the wrong things as the right things. So people lost faith in the system until a movement began. The movement rekindled hope, rekindled trust, rekindled a change of the old order, a change of the old brigade, which the old brigade, a sort of cabal, are fighting because they have held Nigerians hostage. And Nigerians have woken up to resist them, not violently, but with ideology. Not violently, but with resolution that the change they desire must come. INEC betrayed himself. The most painful aspect of it is the conspiracy was among the elitists, in quotes. They have nots, in quotes. But you find that in all they have, they are bereft of integrity. The core values that makes us human have been eroded in them because of financial gratification. Now, they thought and they believe that they have subverted the will of the masses, that it's gonna be the way they want it. But it's different. Remember before now, the youths were insulted that they are not interested in what is happening in their nation. The youths rose and began to make statements and began to propagate the idea of the newness of a better Nigeria. Now, as this has been on, they said if we allow this man, they will take away food from our table. Now, the conspiracy began to still enthrone anomaly as a norm. Tinubu did not win the will of the masses, but he won the will of the INEC officials who breached the code of conduct they drafted. The rule of engagement was not an imposition. They drafted and gave Nigerians hope and faith that this system will work. So many people have never voted. So many people, there was a lot of vote apathy. But in this time, there were a lot of awareness. People went out of their way, made registration, took up their PV as their weapon. They were assured that their PVC is greater than gone. Now this is symbol of change, which they believe. At the 11th hour, before the whole world, INEC failed the nation with impunity. With impunity. Now, how can you enthrone this error as legitimate? What makes government legitimate is the will, the cognitive will of the masses that you represent. Nobody believes in them except the clique, the people that are bought, the people that are paid. You have, I don't want to mention names, but we know them by their actions. So these actions is a function of the money they received. He who pays the piper detects the tune. So the tune they are singing has been bought and has been detected, and Nigerians are waiting. Just like the head of the obedient movement said, please be calm. There is faith. Judiciary is the hope of the common man. We will wrestle out our collective power from these people so that the change we desire will be given back to us. So May 29 is, I'm not bothered because I knew justice must be served. If it is not served, then the judiciary has destroyed themselves, not even Nigerians.
Okay. Barrister Madokaji, I can see you've been listening with some rapt attention.
I'm enjoying my colleagues. They are doing well.
Yes.
I'm happy.
No, Barrister Madokaji, I'm sure you've been following the trend. You've been following the events.
Yes.
A lot of lawyers have written pieces on this issue.
Yes.
Now, I want to ask you, are there conditions where a president-elect cannot be inaugurated?
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Like today, there is a film in Nigeria that was written by BUHARI. The director is Mahmoud, the INEC chairman, and the actors in the film are the four majors in the last election, 25th of February 2023 election. That of B8, Polame Tinubu, that of AA, Abubakar Atiku, that of PO, Peter Obi, and that of Pampaso, the Pampasi Yaman of MPP. Yeah. And today I think we saw the at one, scene one, today at the Federal High Court, or what we call the panel.
Yes.
Yes, and I think that the light is rolling. And but I choose to give it a name. I choose to give it the return of the certificate of return.
So are you saying it's possible?
The possibility is what we are going to look into.
All right.
Yes, but remember,
yes,
the return of the certificate of return, we are going to take it in a very quiet manner.
Okay.
Let's go to Webster English Dictionary to talk about what is return. Return are given in two ways: to give back and to restore back. They are not the same. If you steal somebody's property and you bring it back, that is a restitutio ad integrum. You are trying to say, I am sorry for what I did. Please stay back. I am now born again, as Christians may say. But then if you now restore back what you have taken, if something was planted and you uproot illegally, what you just do is to go and look for the same species of that tree or that seed and replant again. And such a person will say, yes, I know that the growth may not be the same time, but something has been replaced with what has been happening with you or against you. These two things must happen in Nigeria come not May 29,
sure,
but on or before, within the calendar period legally. What do I mean? By the 28th, by 12 midnight, on the 28th day of May 2023, the government of President Muhammad Buhari must wind off. It's a must. There will not be any other government like that.
Yes.
That means as early as 1 second after 12 midnight on the 29th of May, it is deemed that transition has taken place, awaiting public swearing in. What is swearing in? You may say it is called oath of allegiance or oath, public oath as the case may be. Now, we now talk about the ceremony. The ceremony is not the matter. That is going to happen at the 3 square, the 3 arm zone of Nigeria at Abuja, where the president-elect will take a stand with the military goggle, taking it beautifully, just like Mrs. Ano from Nigeria holding that of the British Empire some days ago, marching it majestically with happiness, and then look at the new president coming, president-elect at that stage, and look at the outgoing President Muhammad Buhari, and there is a change of the unicorn, and there become an official handover of a process. It becomes the death of an administration and the birth of a new administration. These actions, mentioned as it were, and then the release of the pigeons, signifying freedom, continuous freedom, will now be escalated Remember, something also happened on that event in Nigeria here, where there was a caution by the militants.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Yes, there was a swearing of that nature.
Yeah.
Is it also? That should be the handover between Yaradua
and
I think Ambassador to Yaradua.
Ambassador to Yaradua, exactly.
Yes, that brought in good of Jonathan. I think that was
Yes.
2007.
Seven. Thank you, my brother. Something happened. And then you now understand that based on that, very many other such events now happen inside the villa. Go and verify. At the arcade of the villa. The villa is a space in Abuja, serenaded by the Supreme Court, catered by the National Assembly. You now get the DSS headquarters, Camp W. Ubasi, and so many other military apparatus surrounding the base. That means movement in and movement out must be regulated and calculated. Thereby meaning you are going to be watching your television to see how the new man has taken over. The event also has been planned to hold within 30 minutes. Yes, it's on record that within 30 minutes, that is because the new president wants to hit the ground to run. He is in a hurry to start building. That is the story. It's official, it's protocol. But we know that it is all a gimmick, a metamorphose of things are not going on well again. Because it used to be a very big ceremony where they will sing, Igbos will sing, Hausa will sing, there will be Fufude, there will be Yoruba songs, there will be dancing galore, there will be a lot of celebrations before you now see the president off to his place. That one could be restricted. But this one's supposed to be in the public glare of Nigerians. Something is wrong somewhere. What are we talking about? By May 29, legally, as a lawyer, President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to take oath of office. That one is certain. It does not in any way affect the matters in the court. Today the matter has started. In fact, the first thing they did today was to say we are listening to 3 cases. That of AA versus, that of APW versus, and that of PO versus. Tomorrow they are going to look into Atiku own and Pampaso's own. Meaning that they are just doing what they call preliminary matters. Then the court will now divulge, or what we call devolve, towards action and activity. Remember, Nigerians have demanded that they would want it to be in public or put on public video. And as I speak with you now, public video is not different from public court. So with what we saw today, it's already in a public court. Now what I may not know is to now say that although journalists are also saw their camera trying to monitor what is happening, I have also seen video of what happened today. I have seen a live video of what happened today from an amateur video man. That means either a lawyer or a journalist, we are allowed to take a shot of it. So you can see that it is moving to be a public matter. But then what the public has been asking, or what they, unquote, the obedience are trying to say is that let it be done on a public glare. We are from the good morning to the good night. The masses, the world will participate in such an action. Now, how beautiful is May 29? Was this the first May 29?
No.
Why is this May 29 a problem? The reason is because those who voted for a winner are publicly trying to say, we do not vote for this man. Publicly. It now looks like when a man has gone to steal the local gong of a native daughter from a community. And then he now plays the gong in his bedroom alone.
Okay, but now, if the insistence of those who didn't vote for the man known today as the president-elect,
Yes.
are there no other persons that also voted for him?
Yes.
So now, I want you to begin to imagine if those who didn't vote for him and those who voted for him meet in a front,
Yes.
where there could be crisis, very major crisis that can take people's life.
Okay.
Is there a way to go?
Yes. Look at what it is now.
Yes.
That is why the courts must be protected. When you hear the court means the judge. Whenever you hear the court, is the judge. That's why they are trying to say protect these jurists from public glare and public attention. Because a judge also goes to market. A judge also goes to church. A judge also goes to mosque. A judge also goes for recreations. So the possibility of Nigerians trying to start saying this was that man. Like when we were younger, we were watching Living in Bondage.
Yeah.
We are married or somebody
Yeah.
who acted that place was almost killed at Lagos Idumoko. I remember, but then we were at Lagos at Idumota. They just saw her and said, this man is a wicked man. So naked, the pretty serpent.
Yeah.
The people we are trying to kill her, we tell her it was a make-believe action. Not to talk of this reality of what we are saying. What I am talking about is this. There was a comment made by INEC to every court, what we call practice direction. INEC said, all results in this election 2023 under the Electoral Act 2022 as amended must be transmitted from the polling unit.
Okay.
But my brother, I want to shock you. 62 days after the election, IRF is still uploading results. 42 days after the election, the results are still being trickled in. In other words, that is why we are trying to find a space. Remember that Lagos was declared, and it was said that APC won Lagos. After about 4 or 5 days, they say no, it was a wrong calculation. No, it happened here now. It's official. Yes. Then I said it was P2P that won Lagos. Such a thing should not happen where we spend close to 38 billion to fund such, yes, well, not less than, to fund such election.
Okay, having played around some of the issues that's surrounding the inauguration on May 29th, now I ask you again, are there conditions where inauguration of president-elect cannot take place?
Yes, the constitutional requirements,
yes,
incapacitation, death, so many other things. But now, none of these are playing out. What is playing out now is that, Oga, you did not win, you will not be sworn in. I mean, from the public. So, in other words, it's an unconstitutional demand by many of us that such a day should not hold. But something happens along the line. Remember that from now onwards, the court will be making what they call rulings. The court, which is the tribunal. So what I feel you should have asked is that, would there be any ruling by the tribunal to stop May 29?
I wouldn't know because I'm not in the shoes of the judge. So it is the judge that to make up his mind to make it of any kind.
That the possibility of that happening is there. What is the work of a judge? Preponderance of evidence. The judge could say, based on what it is, what I'm seeing and other, I feel and I believe that Nigeria should give more 90 days. Nigerians should be given more 90 days within which the swearing in will take place. Because there's something happening about this matter. The Assistant Justice of the Supreme Court or Court of Appeal who are handling the matter. The meaning of it is that it's a court of coordinate jurisdiction and it has one jurisdiction. Today, with what I have seen in the court, the matter is so voluminous. The tribunal will have a lot of job in their hands. And such jobs are not what they are going to rush. And there is no sentiment. Anybody who is saying that May 29 should not hold, that person in law is ignorant. That's the language. Because ignorance will make you to say, I would have said it goes this way. Remember, we are working on the constitution. Our problem is the fraud of the 1999 constitution, which was pseudo-military. That constitution is yet, if what the first page is say, we, the people of Nigeria, came together to give ourselves that we thereby, but this one was not we. Yes. This one was I gave,
of course,
you. And that is why we're having some of these problems.
Okay.
The father,
yes,
the wife, the father, the mother, the children, even the maid are all part of the family. There are some decisions you need to call everybody together and say, let there be these decisions by us. And such decisions should be respectful and sacrosanct. Now, Nigeria is going like as if it is a fascist system. Fascism is what I'm trying to see in the Nigerian system so far. You know why I say so? The current president using his mouth to say, I wanted to go to Katsina to rest, but I have discovered that it may be too closer for your troubles. I will run to Niger.
That's the incumbent president.
With his mouth. I am in haste to go.
Yeah, of course.
I want to go now. It's on record. It's not a story. Whether it was jocularly said, whether it was a comment made by Tinubu to Wike or a fund or not, the truth of the matter is that such a comment is not supposed to come from a leader. It now looks as if there is something that is pursuing everybody within these 60 days to run away. That means that we are afraid of lacuna. But to say an interim government, for now, before our laws, it is unconstitutional.
All right. Now, my brother Okereke.
Yeah.
Now, you see, Barrister Madukaji had just said that anything outside what is written in the Constitution.
It's unconstitutional.
It's unconstitutional,
And
and the implication is that we are heading to anarchy.
Anarchy.
If anybody calls for what is unconstitutional, what is your take about that? Because ordinarily, people are supposed to look at what the Constitution has said, other than so.
All right, like I said before, illegitimacy cannot produce legitimacy. When a process is infected, there's no way it can produce a sent result. Now, I tell you something. Let me, instead of the egg of a serpent hatching to become more dangerous than the mother, it is best quashed at the embryo stage, at the egg level. Now let me tell you why. Take a run down the memory lane. Let me take the two extremes, where you begin to see the infractions of the INEC into the democratic setting of Nigeria. INEC has been part of the reasons for why we cannot have a very sane democratic setting. Get it right. In 1999, INEC gave us the data. The data they gave us in 1999 was that 58 million Nigerians registered and about 30 million Nigerians voted. That was 1999. In 2003,
another election year,
they now told us that was how many years after? By then, about 2, 3, 4 election years has gone. 2020, 2003, 2007, 20 whatever, until now.
2011.
Now, in 2023, 93 million Nigerians registered for elections, and 23 million Nigerians voted.
Laughable.
Now, when you draw an analysis, 58 against 30, 93 against 23 million, that shows that over 50% of the registered voters were disenfranchised. And when you produce a leader to lead those who did not make input in the believed democratic setting, and the emergence of the leader, you are trying to introduce chaos. And that is where we come in to say people were foisted on people. That is when those to be led didn't have an opportunity to say this is what we want and this is whom we want. And that is exactly the scenario that is playing out in Nigeria. If you break the 23 million people who voted down, you discover that adding the total vote scored by Obi, Atiku, 6.7, 6.1, and that of the ones about 1 point something million scored by the three downlines.
Plus the 8 points.
Yeah, it's about 13 point something million. And 13 point something million is agitating. From the analysis today, about 5 parties are equally asking the court to declare this election
APW and others, none of them
illegitimate.
Yes.
Now, you look at this fact now. When you have about 13 point something million people saying we do not agree with what 6.7 million or thereabout produced, there is danger. The number of people who are opposing that administration is greater than the number of people who are supporting the administration. It is obvious. So even if the wind of who wins takes a few people out of the setting, we still cannot take up to 50%. It can't even take up to 30%. Because if you see in the minds and the faces of Nigerians, they are very definite about this matter. They are very definite. They are not changing grounds. Otherwise, if it wasn't before, these issues would have died down. But people are still strongly holding on to whatever thing they believe they did during the elections. So what I'm trying to tell you is that this is a scenario that if the operators of this democracy, if the legislators, number one, were sincere, they would have drawn a system that would have accommodated enough opportunity to deal with the election petition matters before the swearing-in ceremony. Now, if the perpetrators themselves were sincere, for instance, if the administration of BUHARI it's been sincere, the 180 days given by the INEC in the Electoral Act would have been enough for an accelerated hearing. At least the first stage or the second stage of the matter would have been taken through. Now people can begin to calm down when they see that there is a whole lot of sincerity into the matter. But these things are not done. Barely less than 20 days to the election or thereabout, you are beginning a matter. When do you think the matter? What kind of confidence are you giving Nigerians? That is why, from the public domain, from where I am speaking,
thank you so much. Thank you.
From where I am speaking,
Yes.
the public domain,
Yes.
it does appear to us that all is not well. The actors and the players are not telling us the whole truth. There are certain things they are keeping away from us. That's my statement.
Okay. Now, before we go on a break now, Dr. Kelly, from the statement made by Barrister Madukaji, he said that it will be unconstitutional not to have that inauguration take place.
May 29.
May 29.
Yes.
Now, do you see this as also a case of making progress in error?
In state of nature, you talk about the Leviathan. The Leviathan is a monster that was tormenting the people. It was Homo homini lupus. Man is wolf to man. Survival of the fittest.
Yes.
Now the society gathered and say, I don't want to be involved in this anymore. I am surrendering my power. Obilimba brought his power. Bright brought his power to the center, to this Leviathan, to adjudicate and render justice equally to all. This Leviathan agreed with a constitution, a framework for governance. The same Leviathan subverted the process of justice. And the same Leviathan is quoting constitution he has violated that gave birth to illegitimacy. With impunity, that any act against that anomaly that was given birth by a raped woman is legitimate. I am confused. Because the process that brought about this was illegal.
Kelly, maybe we'll have to take a break now, and then by the time we come back, we'll continue our discussion on May 29th and, of course, the controversy around it. The State Actors, where we discuss developing stories, social cultural issues, business, politics, and more. State Actors, a program for critical issues of the moment at Sanders Radio and Television. Yes, yeah, welcome back to the program, The State Actors. And my name is Christian Mokocha. Still have in the studio with me Barrister Madukaji. Barrister Madukaji, good to know you're still in the studio.
I'm here. We're happy.
Okay. I'm still in the studio with Bright. Bright, good to know you're still in the studio.
Thank you very much. We're still in the strength.
All right. Dr. Kelly, good to know you are still very patient, seated in the studio.
My pleasure, as always.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, let's also have a critical look at it. That is Barrister Madukaji. I want you to just put this in the proper perspective. There is a constitutional lawyer who is based in Abuja, and his name is Barrister Aloy Ejimako. And he wrote, and I quote, he said, given that the finality of election results is decided by the courts, except where the INEC declared the results is uncontested, it's unconstitutional to swear in a winner whose victory has not been affirmed by the courts. And he asks, where is the law that says such a winner must be sworn in? That's what's a constitutional law.
I'm going to take up this
All right.
without missing words.
Okay.
I think from what he is saying, he is trying to give the picture that the law says that not until there is a final insignia by the court of the competent land, which is the Supreme Court, such election is still in its process. He gave the law. And he's now trying to challenge us to say we should show where the law says he can be sworn in before this time. Like as I told you earlier, the beauty of the Constitution, we have what we call the lacuna in Constitution. And we have about so many types of constitutional interpretations in law. We have the literal rule, we have the golden rule, and we have a wisdom generis. Whenever something is mentioned that is not mentioned, it becomes a problem. Just like when you say, go and get me a knife to cut my coconut. We are demanding for what we call cutlery. Because in the box of a cutlery, there is a knife. But go and get me the cutlery box. There is knife there, that is prune, that is fake, and other things that goes with it. He is trying to say what the law is saying. But remember, before now, by the conventions, only the matter that did not go, the only presidential election that did not go to court was the matter between Goodluck Jonathan, as the case may be, and the BUHARI in 2015. Every other, from 1999, BUHARI went to court. So that time, BUHARI was in the court. The other time, Atiku was the court. It was only when Goodluck Jonathan in bid for his second tenure that, unquote, INEC declared him a loser. He now congratulated the winner, who is BUHARI, about 8 years ago. Every other one has a process. Now, what we are saying is that what of the same constitution that is saying that the tenure of an elected president is 4 years. From the day of swearing in to so date, a president is seen to have had his tenure. And at the end of the tenure, another president will be sworn in, the same 1999 constitution. So when there is this type of what we call double jeopardy in constitution, there is a need for what we call also double interpretations. We cannot read constitution in isolation. That is the law. It must be read in inclusion and not in exclusion. So based on that, the way it is, the 2022 Electoral Act is gotten its strength from the 1999 Constitution as amended. So when the two are read in pari passu, you will now discover that the current government, the current governance, the government of President Muhammad Buhari will be no functions official, as we call it in law, on or before the 28th day of, on or before the 29th day of May 2023, giving room for the new government.
Okay, let's look at this, because the same constitutional lawyer tried to look at the issue you've tried to address.
Thank you.
By a way of Buhari staying perhaps beyond May 29th. But let us look at how, let us see how he looked at it, so that we can also react to it.
I'm with you.
For the benefits of our audience. Yes. Now let's also read. He said, yes, inauguration of a new president on May 29th is not absolute, neither by the provisions of the Constitution, the Electoral Act, or other written law. He went ahead and said, and no, there won't be any vacuum if a new president is not sworn in on May 29th. The Constitution envisaged such an anomalous situation and thus copiously provided for the rainy day as follows. He now said, First, section 135(1) of A of the Constitution says that, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, a person shall hold the office of president until when his successor in office takes the oath of that office.
Okay.
Now, he also went further and said, if you pay close attention to the above provisions, you will notice that the Constitution never said until May 29th, and it used the word shall, which by settled legal interpretation means must. That means that the incumbent president, despite exhausting his 8 years, is not going anywhere until his successor is sworn in, and such a date could overshoot May 29th.
Thank you so much.
Is this man opening a new chapter in the whole
Of the Constitution.
yes, in the whole issue?
The Constitution is a chronom. Like as I said, we have what they call the mind of the drafters in law. A Constitution ought to be an act of the National Assembly. But remember that prior 1998, the military formed, there was a name now, Constitutional Drafting Committee or something.
Drafting.
I think I'm right?
Yeah.
And they were also selected from different localities. It was just like looking like a confab.
Yeah, it was like confab, but confab now is larger than it.
Confab is larger and more democratic.
More democratic than the other.
It is. And that was how we now have this document called the 1999 Constitution, with its amended, as it were.
More
With its amendments.
More of the job was amendment.
99.99% of the beauty of that Constitution has been on amendment. So what is reading, like I said, section 135, subsection thereabout A, cannot be read in isolation with the convention, which is also unwritten but constitutional. To now say that May 29, by the mathematics of the law, becomes the 4-year tenure. Am I communicating?
Yeah.
Of a government. The meaning of it is this: when is May 29 of Nigeria, of Imo State, Hopos Adema? That means if the judiciary that we're talking about today happens in the life of Tinubu's government, says Peter Obi is the truly elected president of Nigeria, maybe 1 year now, 2 years now, even 3 years now, even 2 to 3 days to the 4th year, is allowed in law. It then means that May 29 will never be a discussion again presidentially. I don't know whether I am communicating.
Yeah.
So what we are discussing now is what we call mutandis, or what we call circumstantial in issue. For now, there was an election where INEC declared the winner. And that matter is in its preliminary before a court.
Wrongly or rightly?
Wrongly or rightly, waiting for the determination of the court. Whenever INEC declares you a winner, it becomes a declaration by INEC, because they are controlling power to declare. Whether it is now wrongly declared or rightly declared is a subject of court jurisdiction. I don't know whether I'm communicating something. So what I'm talking about is this: I am not trying to attack the Jimako, but I'm trying to say that reading sections of the law constitutionally without getting it being married with other functions of the law makes it a reading on isolation or on exclusion. Rather, it should be read in inclusion of the Electoral Act, in inclusion of the Convention, and inclusion of the 1999 instant laws, the instant laws on the 1999 Constitution. So this problem is not a problem that is going to be seen as a joke. It is a matter that Nigeria is now sitting on a turbulence. This is the first time where matters holding in the court after elections is generating such a problem as if it never happened before. But whenever there is a conflict between the Constitution and the Electoral Act, the first in time prevails with the Constitution. Mildly communicating, whatever that the Electoral Act is saying must draw strength from the 1999 Constitution, whether it is rightly done or wrong. You cannot come and say a culture is right or wrong, not until the subject to has National Assembly activity to not say alterate, change or support. It becomes a change of the Constitution.
So what you are trying to say, Barrister Maduka,
Legally.
is that legally the office, the 4-year tenure, I mean the 4-year tenure
of President Muhammad Buhari
is second
is
tenure.
ending by 12 midnight of May 28, 2023.
That for whatever reason,
Any
that
second
not
on
even
it,
1 hour,
yes, on it, is illegality.
and if such happens, it will lead to anarchy.
If such happens, automatically it becomes a rat race. A rat race in such a way that, just like Ejimako is saying, is he now trying to the average Nigerians who are now choosing the lesser evil? If we are going to put it in the public space to say, if by May 29, the court is yet to finish who becomes the president of Nigeria constitutionally.
Yeah, but I would have gone ahead
But it stays
to read
longer.
this Barrister Jimako's argument.
Yes,
but
I think it's important.
Yes, I would have gone ahead to do that. Now,
because I know you must have a submission on that matter.
okay.
As a
Now,
you must have submitted something. I want to know what it submits.
okay.
Yes.
So how would you look at this? Because this lawyer is also seem to be making a lot of sense in what he is saying. But Of course, Barrister Madukaji said his sense
His
cannot
opinion,
be
his
treated
opinion.
in isolation.
Yes.
Cannot be just treated
Like that.
Like that. But rather, a lot of things should also be taken into consideration.
Yes.
Looking at the conventions,
Yes.
looking at where we're all coming from, looking at somebody have been in the office already,
Yes.
and he is spending 4 years in his second tenure. So what happens? So if we follow this, where are we heading to as Nigerians?
All right, I take a little exception from what Barrister Bloomberg has said, and then somehow not seeming to align completely with Barrister Jimako. But at the same time, because we speak from the public domain, and because we speak from a peculiar environment, the media, we may have known a lot of things in the process of coverage of incidents and their records. Now, there are things you begin to introduce. That is why usually the laymen are deceived with the technicalities of the law. The mixture of a whole lot of instant laws, constitutional laws, electoral acts, on a process that is seemingly straight, that rather confuses the action, that rather than developing the right thing. No, on a very serious note, there is an idiom I know from childhood. They say, try, make mushroom meat. You put on this, in mathematics there's something we say, on a very serious note. It is in the process of looking for what could become a meat that a mushroom eventually became meat. Otherwise, nobody would have considered it as meat.
Naturally.
You understand? So, you see, in a certain level of what we call mathematical symbology, you discover that most times, you see, there is a way you treat a matter. The intent of the matter gets lost. Okay. There's a way you bring in this, the whole entire intent becomes lost. You will be looking for. What am I asking for? You won't know anymore. So what am I trying to say in effect?
So you lose track.
You lose track, and you even lose
the main issue. You
lose what you are looking for. What you're looking for, you wouldn't know again. Ab initio, you began with a proper sense of searching for something, and because of the confusion created around what you're looking for, you don't even recognize what you're looking for again. Even if you see it, you can't even identify it.
All right. So okay, now Dr. Kelly, if you look at what Okereke said, he said that we seem to have traveled too far, that we are about forgetting from where we started.
That introduction to all these technicalities.
So I want you to have a critical look at this. What this Barrister Ejimako introducing, or he has introduced already, is it extraneous?
It's not. In my first degree, I did philosophy of law. I did jurisprudence. When we were doing these courses, lawyers brag that the course was too tough. In my neighborhood, one of us, who is now a lawyer, a barrister, I don't know his height now, but he was bragging, this course is too tough. This course, I said, which course was that? He said, I won't understand the course. I said, the course must have a name. He said jurisprudence.
Final course for lawyers.
Yes. He said again philosophy of law. I said, what did you have in your result? He said that the most brilliant among them had D because of how tough the course was. I said, with all due respect, you don't know it. I did that course, I had it A. I did the other one, I had it B. So when you talk, be mindful of how you speak. It's a very simple course. Why? Jurisprudence is the interpretation of the law.
The act of the law.
Jurisprudence is the interpretation of the act of the law.
The law.
Huh? Now, any other thing you're interpreting, I don't know. Now, what is called quiddity? Quiddity has to do with essence. What was the essence of the electioneering process? For the electorate, for the masses to come out and determine who will work for them. Because if you are giving a man job, the man that bought form, what is he looking for? Job. That is democracy. Obulimba bought form. What was he looking for? Job to represent his community in the State House of Assembly.
Why not?
Now, what was he looking for? Job. The electorate now say, we deem him fit. By his record, he can represent us, he can work for us. They voted for him. And he has been voted for. You subvert it. You thwart it. And brought out a person they did not vote for. And you load it on them. And you are quoting constitution for me. To buy into what? What are you? I can't understand it. A process that is mad in irregularity. The constitution said, for you to emerge as the winner, you must have 25% of so and so.
Plus FCT.
Plus FCT. You neither had any of those things. And somebody was quick to declare you winner because of porridge. When Christ was asked, when he healed a man that had a withered hand on a Sabbath day, that this is error according to the law, he asked them, who was the law meant for? Was the law meant for the Sabbath day or the man? Nobody could answer.
No.
They just went away and said, yeah, man. So the constitution is meant for who? For man. So where is the essence of the whole electoral process? To still produce a kangaroo kind of something, something that is already in quagmire. And you want to tell me to believe that this is not a sinking boat? I should remain calm. I should remain calm. The constitution will protect me. A constitution that has failed me. A man that pronounced illegality was not incarcerated immediately, was not arrested and jailed. See, why are you doing this? This is contrary to the will of the masses. Remember, the Leviathan came to be because the people agreed and submitted their cognitive will, their cognitive rights for fairness and equity. For me, if on the 29th of May, the elected winner of INEC is sworn in, then the fabrics that held democracy has been destroyed. Then the thing, the infraction, the contraption, the whatever that is called Nigeria is already gone.
Okay, Dr. Kelly, Barrister Madokaji, is so passionate about what he has said.
Yes.
Particularly, he wants us to believe that the law was violated, and the person that violated the law is quoting the law.
The Leviathan.
Is it the same thing as the speed? The speed limits we have in this country is 100 kilometers per hour.
Yes.
But road safety can use 120 to catch an offender.
Yes.
Is it the same thing as that?
All right, it looks very, very beautiful. As I said,
An interesting one.
we still have the theory of John Locke.
Because I'm making a little contribution on that
That of
one.
John Locke can be married in pari passu with that of Leviathan. We have people's will and all that comes up together for democracy and all that. But then what we are discussing now is the law. What is the law? The law says, the law did, and the law is upholding. Remember, this matter is before the law court. Whatever we say here now is not prejudicial because we are not preempting the judgment.
Yes, at all.
Rather, we're trying to discuss the environmental possibility of what is being done in the court. By the end of the first process, which is the what they call the panel, what they call this now, the panel, the tribunal, there will be a judgment. That judgment is subject to acceptability or subject to appeal. The appeal will now go to the Court of Appeal. After that, to the Supreme Court. And then there will be the final judgment. As we always say, like lawyers, after the Supreme Court, you appeal to God. Let us wait. The process must roll till the end of the Supreme Court. But for now, by May 29, by the Constitution, by the Convention, and by the Electoral Act, a new president has emerged. And that president will be taking the oath of office to continue as a president. That does not mean an estoppel or a change or a quasi judicial to what is obtainable by the judgment. For now, we wait for the judgment to roll, wait for May 29 to roll, and wait for INEC to come and defend what they have done on 25th of February. And it is far from public opinion.
Okay, Doctor. Yes, of course.
Even if I am, but the profession has made me to keep.
Of course, you are.
To keep writing my name.
Very much qualified to do
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. That's the profession.
Yes, Brett. Okay. Can you just give us your parting words?
Yes. On a very serious note, let me just quickly talk on this because it was quite an interesting one. You see, you were trying to lay the scenario on ground as synonymous to that of the road safety, using 120 against the law that says preferred 100 as the speed limit.
Yes, to catch an offender.
In order to catch an offender. Yes. This is an offender trying to catch an offender. Anyway, but let me tell you how it applies here. This is a serious thing because the meaning is that the intricacies surrounding this situation that is simply very simple would have introduced an illegitimate administration which will rule and will continue to rule, issue instructions, do what was constitutionally defined for that office until the time. If it takes 1 year, if it takes 2 years, whichever time it takes, the issue is that we have introduced an illegal system that has held sway over time. Now, you see, look at what I'm saying. In order to, quickly give credence to what Basobliba has said, you see, the discussion here, in as much as in fact, since the matter is already in the court of a competent jurisdiction, we are not discussing to preempt the court.
At all.
But we are also, in my place, one of the congregation will always ask, where we cannot challenge the pastor, can't we ask questions? Where we cannot challenge the court, can't we ask questions? We are asking questions. We are saying that, look, there are things that are very simple. 25% won in certain areas, including Abuja, that was not met. 62% as against 19%.
Okay.
How does it qualify and become?
All right, thank you very much. Barrister Madukaji, just like a parting words, but you may want to just give us a tip, or just an idea.
Yes.
What happens in Abuja 25%?
Yes. The thing is that in trying to have judgment by a court of competent jurisdiction, what about the court stare decisis? What about the conobita dictum? And we have what we call circumstantial evidences. For now, has this matter happened before? Yes. Where did it happen? What did the court say? Those things will be part of what we call preponderance of evidence towards the judge giving his valid judgment.
All right.
That we are in the court to be tried, and you now bring the entire village to be singing he is not guilty, he is not guilty. Does not change the law.
Yeah.
The law must be read in straight to sensu.
Okay, so taking a cue from what Barrister Madukaji said, he said a crowd cannot change the truth.
Never.
Your parting words.
Manuel Kant said something. He said, if 1,000 people say that wrong is right, does it make wrong right?
That's exactly
no.
what he said.
Huh?
Yeah.
A sneaky low, nicky faith means nothing comes from nothing. But here, something is coming out of nothing. An illegality is giving birth to legality. It worries me. It worries me. I didn't vote for you. You say you voted for me. I say I don't want you to rule me. You say you must rule me. If I don't agree, you will kill me. And you go about killing me until I submit that I voted you. Okay. This is the case we have found.
Okay. On this note, we'll come to the end of today's program, The State Actors. And then my brother Okereke, good to know you're part of today's program. Of course, May 29th and the controversy around it. And then thank you for coming.
Thank you, Chris, for having me, and thank you, my colleagues, for also being here with me. Thank you, the audience.
All right. Barrister Madukaji, thanks for being part of today's program.
Thank you so much. I cannot wait to see the justice being served hot like a hot dog.
Oh, thank you very much. Dr. Kelly, good to know you come around to be part of today's program.
Thank you for having me. My prayer is that we get the justice we pray for.
Okay, that's why we'll call it quits on today's program, The State Actors. My name is Christian Mokocha. The State Actors, where we discuss developing stories, social cultural issues, business, politics, and more. State Actors, a program for critical issues of the moment
at Sanders Radio and Television.